I have to ask, there's rumors you might be working on a social network that's text-based. That might be a competitor to Twitter, codenamed P92. Is there something you could say about those rumors?
There is a project. I've always thought that sort of a text-based kind of information utility is just a really important thing to society. And for whatever reason, I feel like Twitter has not lived up to what I would have thought its full potential should be. And I think that the current, I think Elon thinks that, right? And that's probably one of the reasons why he bought it. And I do think that there are ways to consider alternative approaches to this. And one that I think is potentially interesting is this open and federated approach, where you're seeing with Mastodon. I mean, you're seeing that a little bit with Blue Sky. And I think that it's possible that something that melds some of those ideas with the graph and identity system that people have already cultivated on Instagram could be a kind of very welcome contribution to that space. But I don't know, we work on a lot of things all the time though too. So I don't want to get ahead of myself. I mean, we have projects that explore a lot of different things, and this is certainly one that I think could be interesting. But
so what's the the launch date of that again? Or and what's the official website? And
well, we don't have that yet.
Oh, okay.
But
all right.
all
right.
And look, I mean, I don't know exactly how this is going to turn out. I mean, what I can say is, there's some people working on this, right? I think that there's something there that's interesting to explore.
So if you look at, it'd be interesting just to ask this question and throw Twitter into the mix. At the landscape of social networks, that is Facebook, that is Instagram, that is WhatsApp, and then think of a text-based social network. When you look at that landscape, what are the interesting differences to you? Why do we have these different flavors? And what are the needs? What are the use cases? What are the products? What is the aspect of them that create a fulfilling human experience and a connection between humans that is somehow distinct?
Well, I think text is very accessible for people to transmit ideas and to have back and forth exchanges. So it, I think, ends up being a good format for discussion, in a lot of ways uniquely good, right? If you look at some of the other formats or other networks that have focused on one type of content, like TikTok is obviously huge, right? And there are comments on TikTok, but I think the architecture of the service is very clearly that you have the video is the primary thing, and there's comments after that. But I think one of the unique pieces of having text-based comments, like content, is that the comments can also be first class.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes it so that conversations can just filter and fork into all these different directions, and in a way that can be super useful. So I think that there's a lot of things that are really awesome about the experience. It just always struck me, I always thought that Twitter should have 1 billion people using it, or whatever the thing is that that basically ends up being in that space. And for whatever combination of reasons, again, these companies are complex organisms, and it's very hard to diagnose this stuff from the outside.
Why doesn't a text-based comment as a first citizen-based social network have 1 billion users?
Well, I just think it's hard to build these companies. So it's it's not that every idea automatically goes and gets 1 billion people. It's just that I think that idea, coupled with good execution, should get there. But I mean, look, we hit certain thresholds over time where we kind of plateaued early on, and it wasn't clear that we were ever going to reach 100 million people on Facebook. And then we got really good at dialing in internationalization and helping the service grow in different countries. And that was like a whole competence that we needed to develop, and helping people basically spread the service to their friends. That was one of the things, once we got very good at that, that was one of the things that made me feel like, hey, if Instagram joined us early on, then I felt like we could help grow that quickly. And same with WhatsApp. And I think that's sort of been a core competence that we've developed and been able to execute on. And others have too, right? I mean, ByteDance obviously have done a very good job with TikTok and have reached more than 1 billion people there. But it's certainly not automatic, right? I think you need a certain level of execution to basically get there. And I think for whatever reason, I think Twitter has this great idea and sort of magic in the service, but they just haven't kind of cracked that piece yet. And I think that's made it so that you're seeing all these other things, whether it's Mastodon or Blue Sky, that I think are maybe just different cuts at the same thing. But I think through the last generation of social media overall, one of the interesting experiments that I think should get run at larger scale is what happens if there's somewhat more decentralized control, and if it's the stack is more open throughout. And I've just been pretty fascinated by that and seeing how that works. To some degree, end-to-end encryption on WhatsApp, and as we bring it to other services, provides an element of it because it pushes the service really out to the edges. I mean, the server part of this that we run for WhatsApp is relatively very thin compared to what we do on Facebook or Instagram. And much more of the complexity is, in how the apps kind of negotiate with each other to pass information in a fully end-to-end encrypted way. But I don't know. I think that is a good model. I think it puts more power in individuals' hands, and there are a lot of benefits of it if you can make it happen. Again, this is all like pretty speculative. I mean, I think that it's hard from the outside to know why anything does or doesn't work until you kind of take a run at it. And so I think it's kind of an interesting thing to experiment with, but I don't really know where this one's going to go.